Hi, welcome to episode 2 of the Gentle Knitter podcast. My name is Nicole and I'm coming to you from Ottawa, Ontario. And today is Saturday, May 7th, sorry. It's a beautiful Saturday, late afternoon, and it's been about 3 weeks since my last recording. I had thought I would probably record once a month, but frankly, I was so overwhelmed by the response I got for episode 1, and a lot of you wrote to me sort of gently prodding me to maybe try and record more often. And I thought I probably did have enough material to record another episode. So here it goes. Thank you for all of the wonderful messages that you've sent, and for subscribing, and for the shout outs. I got several lovely mentions on different Instagram accounts and on some blogs. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do that and to join me. It's been so much fun. I'm really enjoying this podcasting adventure so far, and so we'll see how it goes to continue. I don't know if I'll be able to record more often. I might still more or less stick to my once a month, but if I can record more often, I will. So let's jump right into it. Let's see. So I don't have a ton of finished objects. I've finished one very big thing, but I can't show you, unfortunately. It's a sample, and I can tell you that it's a large man's sweater, but that's pretty much all I can say at this time. It's blocking right now in my kitchen, and tomorrow when it's completely dry, I will record a segment where I show it off and I talk about the design and my experience knitting it, and I'll save that segment for a future episode. Once the pattern is out, I can talk about the samples that I work on. It's just that I have to wait till the pattern is published. So once that's done, I will show you. And that's my intention, is to kind of bank these segments where I talk about my samples, so that sort of as the podcast progresses, I will have more content to show, because so much of my knitting is sample knitting, and it's really, I think it's an interesting thing perhaps for people to sort of hear about the sample knitting process. And also I knit for some incredible designers, so I'm always very proud to show off their beautiful work. So that will come, and the sample I've just finished will come in a future episode. The only other finished object I have is my Hermione's Everyday Socks, which I talked about in episode 1. I finished these not long after the recording. I probably finished them 3 or 4 days later, and I really like them. They turned out great. I talked about it quite at length last time, but just quickly, Hermione's Everyday Socks by Erica Luder. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. The yarn is a Regia 4-ply, and I used 2.25 millimeter needles. I got a fairly nice dense fabric, which I'm happy with. It also has the Eye of Partridge heel, which I find really pretty. And that's pretty much it. I'm quite happy with them. I started another pair of socks, but I left them at work, so I can't show those to you. But once, maybe next time I record, I only have like about this much done on them, so there wasn't really much to show. But they're very similar. It's the same yarn in a different color, so it's Regia, and in a very pretty pale yellow color. And the pattern I'm using is, I think it's called the Honey Badger Socks. But anyway, I'll give you more details about it when I show them to you next time. So that is it for finished objects. I have been knitting a lot, like I said, on the sample. actually, as far as finished objects, I also finished some yarn, so I can show that to you too. I spun some yarn. It's actually the fiber that you see me spinning in my intro video. And I would love to tell you what this fiber is. Unfortunately, I do not have that information. I bought this fiber probably 3-4 years ago at the Twist Fiber Festival, which is a really fantastic fiber festival that happens in my area in August. And it was fiber that came in a box, in like a brown craft paper box, and the label was on the box itself. And I ditched the box a while ago, so unfortunately I didn't keep the information, which is really silly of me. But if anybody who has been to the Twist Fiber Festival knows this fiber, because the sellers, they always set up in the same spot, sort of in the back. If you're facing, when you walk into the main room, the back right corner, and they always have like all these boxes filled with beautiful fiber. So maybe somebody out there, maybe you know what I bought, but it's very pretty. I don't think you'll be able to see, well, it's very, yeah, it's being blown out by the I have windows everywhere in my house, so there's really not a good place to record without things getting a little bit blown out. But basically, it's a very, like, here you can see the color, well, you can't see the colors better, but it's kind of a overall gray, but if you look at it closely, it's got some very kind of subtle pinks and blues and greens. It's very, very pretty. It's very unevenly plied because I plied a bunch of it when I first got it, and then those bobbins got put in a box somewhere and promptly forgotten about. And then recently I pulled it out again and started spinning it again, but not the same. The original batch was much finer than the second batch. So what I ended up doing is I figured I probably had, I knew I had more yardage of the fine yarn because I had a full bobbin of very finely spun, and then I had 2 bobbins of thicker spun, and I knew that, you know, that there would be a lot more yardage with the thin. So I plied, you know, one thick and one thin to get this sort of very thick and thin kind of yarn. So it's very rustic. It's not super soft, but it's quite lovely. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I don't know how much I have. I have to figure that out. I have to count the number of strands I have in each skein. But anyway, I probably will make, frankly, I don't know what I'm going to make. I spin a lot of yarn, but I don't often knit with my hand spun, which is strange. But it's funny because as a spinner, I'm very different as a spinner than I am as a knitter. As a knitter, I like to be precise. I like to, you know, if I make a mistake, I will go back and fix it. I'm quite sort of disciplined as a knitter, but as a spinner, I'm a lot more loosey-goosey, and I don't really mind if things are not perfect, or if, you know, things are, I don't have the control issues I have with knitting with spinning. And then the other thing with spinning is that I often spin with fibers that are way out of my comfort zone color-wise. I have tons of bats that are in crazy colors, and then I spin it up, and I really enjoy seeing all the colors evolve, but then I end up with yarn that is not really me in terms of colors, but that's okay. I just enjoy the process of spinning so much, and I just end up usually giving it away, or it just sits in my stash. But yeah, it's funny how I'm a much different spinner than I am a knitter, and I'm not experienced as a spinner. I've only been spinning for maybe 3 or 4 years, and I certainly don't do it as much as I knit. So I'm not sure why, but I guess that's spinning is my sort of very relaxing, no pressure place, and knitting I'm a little more exacting. So anyway, yeah, I really like this yarn. I think it turned out really pretty. Um, okay, so in terms of what's in my knitting basket, there's a lot. I'm not going to talk about my big star shawl because I have not worked on it at all. I wanted to, but I just didn't have time. So we'll hopefully have some progress to show on that next time. But let's see, let's go look at my notes. Yeah, so the one thing apart from the socks that I finished, I worked quite a bit on the Plotulopi cardigan, the one that's being knit with this lovely single ply unspun Icelandic yarn. I learned that these weird cakes are called plates, and maybe plotu means plates. I don't know, but anyway, so I've been working on that. I finished the main part of the body, and here you can see that there is a row of purl, and that is because this cardigan is knit in the round and then steeked, so it's cut open to make a cardigan. So I finished the body and I finished one sleeve, and I'm working on the other one. So here's the second sleeve. Oh, I should show you my little stitch marker. It's really cute. It's a little matryoshka, like a little Russian doll stitch marker. It's really cute. Anyway, so this is the second sleeve, and I've probably got another 3 or 4 inches to go. And then once I'm done this, then I can attach the sleeves to the body and then start working on the color work yoke. And I was really hoping to get to that point before I recorded, because I just thought it would be fun to show you some of the color work, but I'm not there yet, so that's okay. Oh, this bag is something I sewed quite a long time ago. It's some Heather Ross fabric. It's so cute. It's like Rapunzel, and really pretty colors. It's like a pale kind of blue with yellow and orange, and I just think her stuff is so charming. So let's see, is there anything else? Oh, well, the other thing is not something that I have started yet, but I have started planning for. And that is the small flower mitts. This is a pattern by Pinaguri Anne and Lee Side Knits. So Lee, my friend Lee, who came to meet me for lunch this week. It was so lovely to meet her, finally. We've been sort of internet friends for a while now, but I finally got to meet her, and she was even lovelier in person than she is. But just how you would imagine her, just very gentle and kind and warm person, and we had a nice lunch, and I had so many things I wanted to ask her and talk about, and I was on my lunch hour, so it was kind of a quick lunch, and she had to get back to home for her boys. So we ended the lunch, and it was sort of like, next thing, we were talking, next thing I knew, it was over, and I spent the whole afternoon at my desk going, oh, I didn't ask her about this, and oh, I wish I'd talked to her about that. But anyway, we both agreed that we will definitely meet up again. So I'm really looking forward to doing that again. But anyway, she designed, I guess she knit these mittens, and Anne Pinaguri, she's a Scandinavian knitter. I think she's Swedish, but don't quote me on that. She wrote up the pattern. She saw the mittens that Lee had knit up, and offered to write up the pattern. So it's a free pattern on Ravelry, and so right now there is a knit along hosted by Pia from the podcast Camabornia, which is a beautiful, insanely gorgeous knitting podcast done by this woman, Pia, and her husband, Dennis. And they live in Sweden. They are just, wow, they're really the production value on their podcast is really high. They have all these different segments, and they film outside, and Pia's a poet, and so she recites poetry, and they sit in their kitchen talking about different projects they're working on. She does book reviews. The whole podcast is in Swedish, but there are English subtitles, and it's a really wonderful podcast. It's relatively new. I think there's only 4 episodes, but I really enjoy listening to them or watching them, and I look forward to more episodes. So she is hosting a knit along on her podcast for these mitts. And so I went into my fairly sizable Shetland yarn stash. I was in Shetland 2 summers ago. Yes, 2 summers ago, and brought back quite a bit of yarn. And I already had quite a bit in my stash just because I've been knitting for so long, and it's so easy to accumulate because you can just buy a little ball, and then when you do color work, you're only using a very little bit. So I have a lot of kind of 2-ply, fingering weight Shetland yarn in all different kinds of colors. I probably have maybe 20 or 30 colors of Shetland yarn. So I went into my stash, and I picked out some colors, and yeah, the light is not great. I'm gonna have to figure something better out in terms of filming, but I've got this very pretty, it's not at all showing up. It's kind of a salmon pink. No, not at all. Okay. Well, I will work on that. So my goal for the next podcast is to fix the lighting, but this is like a salmon pink, and this is kind of a brick red, and this is a nice warm brown that has flecks of rust and pinkish. It's very pretty. This is kind of an oatmeal color, and this is kind of a heathery, tealy blue. So these are the colors that I've chosen. I should show you what the mitts look like. Let me get it on my iPad. All right, here they are. Very pretty. You've got a band of color work at the bottom of the hand, and then some eyelets on the hand. And super lovely. I've had these in my queue ever since the pattern came out. So when Pia talked about doing a knit along, I thought, oh, perfect opportunity. Just gonna take a bit of tea. I'm still a little sick. Much better now, but this cup is another cup by Maureen Marcotte that I was telling you about last time. And as I was saying, she's an incredible potter, but she's also a knitter. And when I saw this cup, I had to buy it because it's got I don't know if you can see this patterning here. To me, I mean, there's a leaf here, but the rest of it, this looks like knitting to me, like knitting stitches, the little V's. So when I saw it, I just had to have it. The tea I'm drinking is very special, and I'm going to tell you about it in a minute. When I first published the first episode, I got a message from Vibeke. I think that's how you say the name. She's from Norway, and she has a beautiful blog that I've been following for a very long time called A Butterfly in My Hair. I've participated in a couple of swaps that she's organized, and I also did. I also participated in at Christmas. Sometimes for a couple of years, she did an advent calendar where every day she would feature a different maker and basically choose a winner to win something that that person had made. So she had. I had donated some things that I had knit for that event. Anyway, she sent me a message to tell me that she really enjoyed the podcast and she had something to send me. So I was very excited earlier this week when a box showed up from Norway. And oh my goodness, what a lovely package. She is just such a sweet lady, and she really knows what I like because the package was just filled with beautiful things. First of all, a gorgeous card with wildflowers, some clover there, which is lovely. And she wrote me a beautiful long letter, handwritten letter. What a treat. It made me realize how much I love handwritten letters, and that I really need to do that more often because it's such a joy to read a real letter. I used to have pen pals when I was a kid, and yeah, so that was very, very, just the letter itself was such a treat. But she also sent me some other stuff. She sent me this beautiful soap. It's a goat milk soap, I believe. Just it's written in Norwegian, I guess, but it says Gaute milk, so I'm assuming it's goat's milk, and it has a beautiful herbally kind of lavender smell. So I absolutely love it. Thank you for that. And what I'm drinking is this gorgeous tea that she sent me. It is a wildflowers tea, and when I look in there, I can see clover, I can see blue malva. What else is in there? Chamomile, hyssop, cornflower. It's actually just such a beautiful blend. I really am enjoying it very much, and I'm going to kind of use it sparingly to make it last as long as possible. Then the last thing, there are a few other little things, but I will keep those for myself. But the last thing she sent was some yarn. She sent some beautiful, this is Sandnes Garn, which is a brand that is available here, but not this weight. It's a 3-ply sock yarn. It's slightly thicker. I think it's a sport weight sock yarn. And she sent these beautiful colors. My color's gray. This is a marled and then kind of a heathery medium gray. She sent 6 skeins. And so I'm going to make some socks using this as the body, and then heels and toes. But the other 6 skeins I will give to somebody. I am not sure yet how that's going to happen, but I am going to do some sort of giveaway. Perhaps, I was thinking perhaps maybe when we reach 1,000 subscribers on the podcast, I could do a giveaway then. I think I'm going to create a Ravelry group for the podcast. Not quite sure how you do that, but I'm sure it's not super complicated. And maybe I'll post a thread in there once I reach 1,000, and I'll figure out some kind of question or some kind of thing I would like you to tell me in terms of entering the contest. But I will definitely be giving that yarn away. And I think the Ravelry group might be also a good place for you to put, if you have questions or comments about the podcast, that might be a great place to put that. I was thinking that maybe I could have a thread that was, ask me anything kind of thread. I got a few questions on my last episode. One was, what is my Ravelry name? It's The Gentle Knitter. I also was asked what museum I work at, and I work at the Canadian Museum of Nature, which is the sort of the Canadian equivalent of the AMNH, the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. So this museum that I work at is a big old is in a big old Victorian building. It's a very beautiful place to work, and I develop content for exhibitions. So I write when you go to an exhibition and you see all the text panels, I write that kind of label text. I help develop the concepts that, the themes of an exhibition. I also get to go into collections and pick out specimens and develop different activities and interactives relating to our exhibits. So it's a really fun job. It's also a very stressful job, but I really enjoy it. I love nature, so for me, it is a good fit. I like learning about different animals and plants and just the natural world in general. So. And that, you might get a sense from that from my Instagram and my blog. I have a lot of objects around the house that reflect my love of nature. So I think that is it for me today. I'm sure I've forgotten a lot of things, but I will post the show notes with the YouTube video and also on my blog. And I also intend on having a bit more of a presence on my blog and also on Instagram. I'm working out a way to have better photos on Instagram. It hasn't happened yet, but I think I've figured something out. So hopefully soon I will be improving my content there, and also putting a little bit more on my blog. And like I mentioned in my last episode, I will probably create a new blog at some point, but haven't done that yet. So anyway, that's about it for me. I really thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this, and that it wasn't very finished object heavy, but hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll see you very, very soon, I hope. Bye.